My roommate and best friend for 7 years was sleeping with my boyfriend the entire time. I was in the hospital healing after a car crash. Can you imagine spending 7 weeks in a hospital bed, fighting for your life, learning to walk again, only to come home and discover your best friend and boyfriend were actually laughing about your suffering? My entire world shattered that night, and what I planned next, well, let's just say they had no idea what was coming. Seriously, I've been sitting on this for 3 months, and I'm about to do something that will completely blow up my life. My best friend, my boyfriend, 7 years of friendship, almost 2 years of a relationship. Everything I thought I knew about the people closest to me, it was all a lie. And I desperately need to know if I'm totally insane for what I'm about to do. Let me take you back to the beginning. Skylar and I met freshman year at Ohio State. Total luck of the draw, random dorm assignment. But it felt like destiny, you know? She was from Toledo, I was from Columbus, and we just clicked. That first week we'd stay up until 3 a.m., spilling our guts about everything. Our families, our biggest fears, our wildest dreams, even the cute guys in our classes. By sophomore year, we were absolutely inseparable. Junior year, we got these tiny matching star tattoos on our ankles, so meaningful at the time we thought. We moved off campus, and after graduation we both stayed in Columbus, got jobs, found a bigger apartment. 7 years, guys. 7 years of birthdays, holidays, and countless random Tuesday nights. Eating ice cream on the couch, complaining about work. She was my person. The first one I'd call, the one who knew every secret, every fear, every embarrassing story. She was the sister I never had since I only have a brother. Then Owen came into the picture almost 2 years ago. We met at a Halloween party through some mutual friends. He was dressed as a lumberjack, flannel shirt, fake axe, this whole thing, and he had this dumb, confident smile that somehow just worked on me. He had this incredible way of making you feel like you were the most interesting person in the room, like everything you said was fascinating and funny and worth his undivided attention. I fell for him fast. Probably too fast looking back, but he seemed so genuine, so into me, so different from the half-interested guys I dated before. Skylar and Owen got along great from the start. They had a similar sense of humor, both loved making fun of people, both thought they were way funnier than they actually were. I was thrilled about it, honestly. I wanted my best friend and my boyfriend to like each other, to be comfortable together. I encouraged them to hang out. I thought it was a good sign. God, I was such an idiot. The accident happened in February. I was driving back from visiting my parents, a Sunday evening, just 40 minutes on the highway. Some guy in a pickup fell asleep, crossed the median and hit me head-on. I don't remember the impact, the ambulance, the helicopter, or even the first 3 days in the ICU. What I know is what people told me later. A broken pelvis, a shattered left femur, for broken ribs, a collapsed lung, internal bleeding that almost killed me twice on the operating table. I was in the hospital for almost 7 weeks, then a month in a rehabilitation facility, learning how to use my body again. Then home, first with a wheelchair, then a walker, then a cane. Physical therapy 3 times a week that made me want to scream. Nights where I couldn't sleep because every single position hurt. Days where I truly wondered if I would ever feel normal again. And through all of it, Skylar was there. She was amazing. She visited me in the hospital almost every single day. She'd bring those cheap grocery store flower bouquets that I actually love because, expensive flowers are kind of a waste. She brought magazines, snacks, dry shampoo when I complained about my greasy hair. She held my hand during the really bad pain days, cried with me when the doctor said I might need another surgery. She sat with my mom in waiting rooms for hours. She was perfect. Owen visited too, but not as much. He said hospitals made him uncomfortable. Said seeing me in pain was hard for him. Said he was dealing with it in his own way. And me? I made excuses for him, because that's what you do when you're in love and too exhausted and broken to question anything. When I finally came home from rehab, Skylar had cleaned the entire apartment, set up my room so I could navigate with the wheelchair, stocked the fridge with all my favorites, even bought me new pajamas that were easy to get on and off. Owen came over that first night and made dinner for all 3 of us. I sat at my own kitchen table, feeling so incredibly grateful, loved, and lucky. I was recovering slowly, painfully, but recovering. Then, 3 months after I got home, I was having a horrible pain night. Couldn't sleep, couldn't get comfortable. My brain just wouldn't shut off. Around 2 a.m., I decided to check the security camera footage because I thought I heard something in the living room. We'd been having issues with a drunk neighbor trying our door handle late at night. You know? I opened the app on my phone, scrolled back through the footage to check for anything weird, and then I saw them. Skylar and Owen. On our couch. Not sitting, not talking. My stomach dropped. I watched my best friend with my boyfriend, right there on the couch where I had recovered from surgery, where I did my physical therapy exercises, where I cried from pain while she rubbed my back and told me everything would be okay. I just kept watching because I couldn't stop. I needed to understand. And then I heard what they were saying. The cameras record audio. I had forgotten that. Or maybe just never really thought about it. Owen was laughing about something and Skylar said I was so pathetic. She said I actually believed she was my best friend. That I was desperate. That I would die alone without her. And Owen? Owen said I was lucky he even looked at my ugly face. They just laughed together. About me. While I was in the next room, broken and healing and trusting them completely. I couldn't stop. I went through more footage, hours of it, days of it. Clips from when I was still in the hospital. Them together in our apartment talking about me like I was nothing, like I was a joke, like my accident was convenient for them. There was one clip where Skylar said she hoped I would stay in the hospital longer so they could have more time together. Owen said maybe I would need that second surgery, and that would buy them another few weeks. They were actually hoping I would suffer more so they could keep betraying me. I didn't confront them. I know, that's what most people would do, scream and cry and throw things and demand answers. But I was still recovering. Still in pain every single day, still dependent on Skylar for rides to physical therapy because I couldn't drive. Still accepting Owen's help when he came over. And I was so angry, so deeply, profoundly furious, that I knew if I confronted them right then, I would absolutely destroy myself in the process. I would break down. I would give them the satisfaction of watching me fall apart. So I decided to wait. For 3 months now I have been pretending I don't know. 3 months of smiling at Skylar across the breakfast table, kissing Owen when he comes over, listening to her talk about her day like she isn't systematically destroying my life, watching him act like the devoted boyfriend while knowing what he said about my face. I've become the best actress in the world. I went to physical therapy and got stronger. Started driving again. Went back to work part-time then full-time. I rebuilt my body, my independence while they thought I was clueless, grateful and pathetic just like they said. The whole time I was downloading footage, saving clips, building a file of every horrible thing they said about me, every time they were together in my home, every single lie. And I was planning. Skylar and I had talked about having an apartment warming party for months. We moved into this place right before my accident and never got to celebrate. She kept bringing it up now that I was better, saying we should invite everyone, make it a real celebration of my recovery too. I agreed enthusiastically. I said, let's make it big. Both our families, all our friends, everyone. I suggested we invite my parents, my brother, my aunts and uncles and cousins. Her parents, her sister, her grandparents who live nearby. Oh, and obviously all our college friends, work friends, the neighbors we like. 40 people have confirmed. 40. I told Skylar I would handle the entertainment. I said, I made a slideshow of our friendship over the years. All our best photos and memories. She thought that was so sweet. She said I was the best friend anyone could ask for. I just smiled. The party is this Saturday. What I'm actually going to play is the security footage. Not the physical stuff, obviously, but the parts where they talk about me. Where she calls me pathetic and desperate. Where he says I'm lucky he looks at my ugly face. Where they laugh about me being in the hospital. I am going to play it in front of both our families. In front of everyone who loves us and thinks they know who we are. I am going to destroy them. And I need to know if this is insane. If I'm taking this too far. If I should just confront them privately like a normal person and move on with my life. They took something from me that I can never get back. Not just my boyfriend and my best friend, but my ability to trust my own judgment. My belief that the people who love me actually love me. My sense of safety in my own home. They did this while I was fighting for my life. While I was broken and scared and dependent on them. They laughed about my suffering like it was entertainment. I don't want to just confront them. I want them to be exposed. I want everyone to see who they really are. I want their families to know what they raised. I want our friends to know what kind of people they've been trusting. Is that revenge? Yes, absolutely it is. But is it wrong? My brother knows my plan. He is fully on board and says they deserve worse. My mom doesn't know the details, But she knows something happened with Owen and keeps asking why I seem different around him lately. I haven't told her because I need her genuine reaction at the party. I need everyone's genuine reaction. Saturday is 4 days away. 40 people are coming to watch me blow up 2 relationships and probably cause a family incident that will be talked about for years. I have thought about backing out, about just confronting them privately and kicking Skylar out and breaking up with Owen like a normal person. About moving on without the drama. But then I remember what they said about me. Pathetic, desperate, ugly. Lucky he even looks at me. Should stay in the hospital longer. No. They don't get to slink away quietly. They don't get to control the narrative and tell people we just grew apart or the relationship ran its course. They get to be seen, really seen by everyone who matters. I have never done anything like this in my life. I am not a dramatic person. I am not vindictive. I am the friend who always sees both sides, always tries to understand, always gives people the benefit of the doubt. They burned that version of me. I will update after the party. If I don't chicken out. If I actually go through with this. God, I am so scared and so angry and so ready for this to be over. Update 1. I did it. I actually did it. And I need to tell you every single detail because my hands haven't stopped shaking for 3 days. And I keep replaying Saturday night in my head like a movie I cannot turn off. First, thank you to everyone who commented on my original post. I read every single response multiple times. The people who said, do it. The people who said, be careful. The ones who asked if I had somewhere to go after. You helped me more than you know. When I was standing there with my phone in my hand, ready to connect to the TV, I thought about all of you telling me they deserve to be exposed, that I deserve justice. Okay, here is everything that happened. Saturday morning, I woke up at 5 a.m. because sleep was just not happening. I lay there staring at the ceiling, running through every possible scenario. What if the TV connection fails? What if someone stops me? What if I chicken out? What if Skylar somehow figures it out before I can press play? But then I thought about her voice saying I was pathetic. Owen laughing about my face. Them hoping I would stay in the hospital longer. And I got out of bed and put on the red dress I bought specifically for this occasion. My brother Noah showed up around noon. He was the only one who knew the full plan. He kept looking at me like he expected me to back out, but I just handed him the backup USB drive, just in case the phone connection failed, and told him to make sure the sound system worked perfectly. Skylar was running around all morning, being the perfect hostess, rearranging the snack table 4 times, asking if we had enough chairs, freaking out about whether the bathroom was clean enough. She was wearing this cute yellow sundress and had curled her hair, and kept saying how excited she was that we were finally doing this party. I just smiled and agreed with everything she said. Owen arrived around 3 p.m. with flowers. A bouquet for me and one for Skylar, because he's just so thoughtful and considerate, right? He kissed me on the cheek and told me I looked beautiful. I just said thank you, while picturing his face 2 hours from now. People started arriving at 5 o'clock. My parents first with my mom's famous spinach dip. Then Skylar's parents with her grandmother Glenda, who is 82 and honestly the only person I felt guilty about because she did not deserve what she was about to see. Then our college friends, work friends, neighbors, my aunt and uncle from Cincinnati, Skylar's sister Rebecca with her husband. 40 people exactly. The living room was packed by 7. I watched Skylar work the room like she always does, hugging everyone, laughing at jokes, being the absolute center of attention. I watched Owen charm my relatives, shaking my dad's hand, complimenting my mom's cooking. They were so good at performing, both of them. I used to admire how naturally social they were. Now I understood it was just practice from all the lying. Around 8, I announced I had a special presentation, a slideshow celebrating 7 years of friendship with Skylar. Everyone gathered in the living room, squeezing onto the couch and chairs, standing along the walls. My mom was in the armchair by the window. My dad was perched on the arm of the couch. Skylar's grandmother was seated in the nice chair we had brought from her room specifically for her. Skylar came and stood right next to me by the TV. She put her arm around my shoulders and squeezed and said she could not wait to see what I put together. Said she was probably going to cry from all the memories. She was right about the crying part. I looked at her face. This face I had loved for 7 years. My best friend, my sister, the person I trusted more than anyone. Then I connected my phone to the TV. The screen lit up and for a second it just showed my camera roll. I could feel Skylar leaning in excitedly next to me. I scrolled to the folder I had labeled Party and clicked on the first video. The footage started with a wide shot of our living room. The couch, the coffee table, the window behind it. For about 2 seconds nothing happened and I saw people looking confused. Then Skylar walked into frame, and Owen was right behind her. The room was so quiet you could hear the ice shifting in someone's drink. On screen, Skylar sat down on the couch and Owen sat next to her, and they started talking. Normal conversation at first, something about what to order for dinner. A few people in the room started looking at me like they didn't understand what they were watching. Then Skylar said she was so glad I was still stuck in rehab for another few weeks, that it was exhausting pretending to care about my recovery every day, that she needed a break from being my emotional support pet. I heard my mom inhale sharply. Owen laughed and said at least the hospital visits got her out of the apartment so they had some alone time. Then he said, maybe I would need that second surgery the doctors mentioned, and that would buy them another month at least. Skylar's mother stood up from where she was sitting. On screen, Skylar said she hoped I would need it because she was getting tired of the charade. Then she leaned into Owen and said, besides, it's not like she would even notice if we were more obvious about things, that she was so desperate for her friendship, she would believe anything she told me. Owen said that was true. Said I was pathetic. Actually said, I followed Skylar around like a lost puppy, and it was sad to watch. Someone in the room whispered, oh my God. Skylar laughed and said, the saddest part was that I actually thought Owen was in love with me, that I talked about our future together like it was real, that I had shown her engagement rings I liked and asked her opinion like she was going to be my maid of honor someday. Owen said I was lucky he even looked at my ugly face, that he had been settling this whole time, and I should be grateful for every minute he spent pretending to be attracted to me. My dad stood up. On screen, Skylar was nodding along and said I had always been the ugly friend anyway. That was why she kept me around, because standing next to me made her look better. She said I was useful for that, at least even if I was boring and needy and exhausting to deal with. Owen asked if she felt bad at all about what they were doing. Skylar shrugged and said, not really. Said I would never find out because I was too stupid and trusting. Said even if I did find out somehow, I would probably forgive her eventually because I had no one else. That I was so desperate for friendship I would put up with anything. I looked around the room. My mom had both hands over her mouth. Skylar's mother was crying silently. Skylar's grandmother, Glenda, was gripping the arms of her chair. My brother Noah was watching Skylar with this expression like he was seeing a stranger. On screen, Owen said, what about her family? What if they found out? Skylar laughed and said her family would never believe it. Said she was the golden child and everyone loved her. And even if someone told them, they would take her side. Said her grandmother thought she was perfect, and she had spent years making sure of that. I looked at Glenda when Skylar said this. Watched her face crumble. Owen asked what the long-term plan was. Were they just going to keep sneaking around forever? Skylar said she had not decided yet. Said maybe she would wait until I was fully recovered, and then find some excuse to end our friendship so it looked mutual. Or maybe she would just let things fade naturally. Said either way she was not worried because I was easy to manipulate. Then she kissed him. Right there on the couch. Someone in the room made a gagging sound. I think it was my aunt. I let the footage keep playing. It showed them talking more about me. About how annoying my physical therapy complaints were. About how Skylar had to pretend to care about my pain when really she just wanted me to shut up about it. About how Owen was tired of playing the supportive boyfriend when he visited the hospital and had to act concerned about my recovery. 5 minutes of footage. 5 minutes of every horrible thing they said about me. Documented in perfect clarity. Skylar started screaming at me to turn it off about a minute in. She was grabbing at my phone but Noah stepped between us. She was crying and yelling that I didn't understand, that it wasn't what it looked like, that I was taking things out of context. She kept saying, please, please, please turn it off, like that word would fix anything. Owen tried to leave. Just stood up and headed for the door like he could walk out and pretend this was not happening. But my dad was blocking the door now. And my dad is 63 but he was a firefighter for 30 years, and he still looks like he could fold someone in half if he wanted to. Owen started trying to explain, talking fast, saying I had edited the footage, saying I made it look worse than it was, saying they were just joking around and I was being dramatic about nothing. My mom walked over to him. My sweet mom, who makes cookies for the neighbors and cries at commercials, she got right in his face and told him to stop talking. Told him every word out of his mouth was making it worse. Told him if he did not leave her daughter's apartment right now, she was not going to stop her husband from doing what he clearly wanted to do. Owen looked at my dad. Dad had the baseball bat we keep by the door. Noah grabbed his arm, but he wasn't really trying that hard to hold him back. Owen left without another word. Did not look at me. Did not apologize. Did not try to explain anymore. Just turned around and walked out the door like the coward he is. But Skylar could not leave. This was her apartment too. Her family was standing right there, watching her mascara run down her face. Her mom started in immediately. How could you do this? How could you say those things? How could you betray your best friend who almost died? Skylar tried to interrupt, but her mom kept going, saying she didn't raise her like this, saying she was ashamed, saying she didn't recognize the person standing in front of her. Skylar kept trying to explain, saying it started before the accident, saying she didn't mean for it to happen, saying she tried to end it, but Owen kept pursuing her, saying she was going to tell me eventually, she just didn't know how. Her mom asked if that made it better. If the timeline somehow excused what she did. Asked if cheating with her best friend's boyfriend was acceptable as long as she planned to confess someday. Skylar said I didn't understand how hard it was for her. That she was stuck in the middle, that she cared about me. But she also had feelings for Owen, and she didn't know what to do. That is when I finally spoke. I told her she said I was pathetic, desperate, that I would die alone without her. That I was the ugly friend she kept around to make herself look better. I told her those didn't sound like the words of someone who was stuck in the middle. Those sounded like the words of someone who thought I was beneath her. Skylar said she didn't mean it. Said she was just venting, just saying stupid things she didn't actually believe. Said I knew her. I knew she loved me. I knew she didn't really think those things about me. I told her I didn't know her at all, apparently. That I spent 7 years thinking she was my best friend. And she spent 7 years thinking I was useful and pathetic and easy to manipulate. Skylar kept crying and saying please. Saying my name over and over like it was a magic word that would make me forgive her. She reached for my hand but I stepped back. Then Glenda stood up. Skylar's grandmother is tiny, barely 5 feet, white hair. Always wearing soft floral blouses. She has known Skylar since the day she was born. She was at every birthday, every holiday, every graduation. Skylar was her favorite grandchild, and everyone in the family knew it. Glenda walked over to Skylar very slowly. Everyone got quiet. Skylar looked at her grandmother with this desperate hope on her face, like surely Grandma would understand. Grandma would take her side. Grandma would make everyone see that this was all a big misunderstanding. Glenda looked at Skylar for a long moment. Then she said she heard what Skylar said on that video about her. That Skylar said her grandmother thought she was perfect, and she had spent years making sure of that. Glenda said she did think Skylar was perfect. For her whole life she had been so proud of her granddaughter. Bragged about her to everyone. Showed her photos to all her friends. Talked about how kind and good and wonderful she was. And now she knew it was all manipulation, all performance. That Skylar had been lying to everyone, including her, for years. Glenda said she was ashamed that she did not know who Skylar was, but it was not the granddaughter she loved, that she needed to leave now because she could not look at her anymore. Then she walked toward the door, did not hug Skylar, did not say goodbye. Skylar's sister, Rebecca, ran after her to make sure she got to her car. Skylar collapsed onto the couch, the same couch from the video. She was sobbing so hard she could barely breathe. Her mom sat down next to her, but not in a comforting way, more like she was waiting for more answers. Her dad stood behind them, looking like he wanted to be literally anywhere else on earth. The party emptied out pretty quickly after that. People kept coming up to me and hugging me and apologizing like it was their fault, saying they could not believe it, saying they were so sorry this happened, saying if I needed anything to call them anytime. My mom would not let go of my arm. My dad kept pacing around, clenching and unclenching his fists. Noah was gathering up my stuff, the bag I had pre-packed, making sure I didn't forget anything I needed. Skylar's parents stayed. Her mom was questioning her in this low, intense voice about how long it had been going on, how it started, who else knew. Skylar kept giving vague non-answers, saying it just happened, saying she never meant to hurt anyone, saying she made a mistake. Her mom asked if sleeping with her best friend's boyfriend for months, while that friend was recovering from almost dying, was a mistake or a choice. Skylar did not have an answer for that. I walked past the couch with my bag. Skylar looked up at me with her ruined face, mascara everywhere, eyes swollen, looking more pathetic than I have ever seen her look. She grabbed my arm. She said, Please let her explain. It was not what I thought. She loved me. I was her best friend. Please do not throw away 7 years over this. Please just talk to her. Just listen. Just give her a chance to make it right. I looked at her hand on my arm, at her face. This face I had trusted completely. I told her she was right about one thing in that video. She said I would die alone without her. And now I knew that was true, because without her I never would have known who she really was. So, thank you for showing me. I pulled my arm away. She said my name again. Kept saying it. Like if she just said it enough times I would turn around. I did not turn around. Noah had the car running outside. My parents followed us out. We drove to their house in silence, except for my mom crying quietly in the back seat. That was Saturday. It is now Tuesday and my phone has been absolute chaos. Owen has texted me probably 70 times. Started with anger. How could I do that to him? How could I humiliate him like that? I had no right to air their private business in front of everyone. Then shifted to justification, saying what they did was wrong, but what I did was worse. Saying at least they kept it private and I made it public. Saying I violated his privacy by showing footage of him in my apartment. Then he started trying to explain, saying it wasn't as bad as it looked, saying the things he said on the video were just stupid talk and he didn't mean any of it, saying he did love me. He just also had feelings for Skylar and he got confused, but that didn't mean everything between us was fake. Then he got angry again when I didn't respond, saying I was being childish, saying mature adults talk things through instead of ghosting, saying I owed him a conversation at minimum after 2 years together. I have not responded to a single message. Skylar has been trying to reach me through everyone we know. She can't text me directly anymore because I blocked her number after message 50, but she keeps finding ways. Our college friend Becca texted saying Skylar was begging her to pass along an apology. My coworker said Skylar found her on Instagram, asking if she could get a message to me. Skylar has also been posting on social media vague stuff about being judged without people knowing the full story, about how easy it is to look like the villain when someone only shows one side, about fake friends and betrayal, and people who don't understand what she's going through. Like she was betrayed, like she is the victim here. Our mutual friends keep screenshotting her posts and sending them to me. They are all furious on my behalf, which feels good, but also exhausting because everyone wants to talk about it constantly, and I am so tired. Skylar's sister Rebecca texted me yesterday, not to defend Skylar, but to tell me their grandmother still has not spoken to her. That Glenda told their mother she needs time and space, and is not ready to have a relationship with Skylar right now. Coming from Glenda, that is basically disownment. She has never cut off a family member before. Rebecca also said Skylar has been staying at her place because she cannot face going back to the apartment. That Skylar cries constantly and barely eats and keeps saying her life is ruined. Good. Let her feel even a fraction of what I felt, lying in that hospital bed while she laughed about my suffering. My parents want me to stay with them indefinitely. Mom keeps making my favorite foods and checking on me every hour. Dad keeps asking if I want him to go have a talk with Owen, which definitely means something more than talking. Everyone keeps telling me I did the right thing. I know I did. I don't regret it. But it's 3 a.m. and I cannot sleep. And I keep thinking about 7 years of friendship. Were any of the good moments real? I will never know. That is the worst part. I will spend the rest of my life wondering if any of it was real. The apartment situation is complicated. Both our names on the lease. 6 months left. I have 30 days to figure out what I want to do. Her parents offered to pay her portion until she finds somewhere else, and I accepted because I need the money. But that means Skylar technically still has access. She could show up anytime. I have been going there during the day to grab my stuff. Yesterday, I found a photo of us from junior year at a music festival. Matching face paint, huge smiles, arms around each other. I stared at it for 10 minutes, then threw it in the trash, then took it out, then threw it away again. More updates coming because this is far from over. Skylar has to get her stuff eventually. Owen will not stop trying to contact me. Both families are in complete chaos. Final update. So Skylar showed up to get her stuff yesterday, and I need to tell you everything because what started as a simple move out turned into the most intense confrontation of this entire nightmare. She texted me through her sister Rebecca's phone 3 days ago, saying she was ready to come get her things and wanted to do it when I was not there to avoid conflict. I told her absolutely not. I told her I would be there the entire time watching her pack every single item, and if she had a problem with that, she could hire movers and I would supervise them instead. She agreed to come Saturday afternoon, and I spent the next 3 days preparing myself mentally for seeing her face again. My brother Noah showed up at noon with coffee and this steady, calm energy that I desperately needed. He sat on the couch scrolling his phone while I paced around the apartment, trying to burn off nervous energy. Skylar arrived at 2 p.m. with her mom, which I was not expecting. Her mom, Cynthia, walked in looking like she wanted to disappear into the floor. Skylar went straight to her room without acknowledging me, and her mom followed, and I could hear them in there, opening drawers and sliding hangers across the closet rod and taping boxes shut. Noah and I sat in the living room, listening to the sounds of 7 years being packed into cardboard. And I kept thinking about how strange it was that an entire friendship could be reduced to boxes and trash bags. About an hour into the packing, Skylar came out to get her stuff from the bathroom, and she had to walk past me to get there. She stopped in the middle of the living room and just stood there looking at me like she was trying to figure out what to say. And I stared back at her without giving her anything. She started with the apology I knew was coming, saying she understood if I didn't want to hear it, but she needed me to know she was truly sorry for everything. And she had been doing a lot of thinking, and she finally understood why I did what I did at the party. She said she deserved it. She said she deserved all of it, and she wasn't going to make excuses anymore because there were no excuses for what she did. I just looked at her without responding because I wanted to see where she was going with this, and whether she actually had anything real to say, or if this was just another performance. She kept talking, saying the worst part of all of this was losing her grandmother. She said Glenda still would not speak to her, that she had tried calling every single day, and Glenda never answered, that she had written letters and sent flowers and even showed up at her house, but Glenda would not open the door. She said her grandmother was the most important person in her life, and she had destroyed that relationship forever with her own selfishness, and she did not know how to live with that. I told her, good. Now she knew exactly how it felt to lose someone she thought would always be there. Someone she trusted completely. Someone she built her life around. Skylar started crying, these quiet tears running down her face, and she said she deserved that. She deserved everything that was happening to her. But she needed to ask me something even though she already knew the answer. She asked if there was any possibility we could ever be friends again. Not now and not anytime soon, but maybe someday years from now when everything had settled. Could I ever see myself forgiving her? I told her no. I told her I would never forgive her, and I would never want her in my life again, and she needed to accept that and stop hoping for some redemption arc where I eventually came around. She nodded like she expected that answer. But then she said there was something else she needed to tell me. Something that had been eating at her since the party and something that would probably make me hate her even more. But she could not keep carrying it around anymore. I waited because at this point what else could she possibly tell me that would make any of this worse? She said the affair with Owen started way before my accident. She said they had been sleeping together since the previous June before the car crash. And the whole time I was telling Owen I loved him and planning a future with him and showing her engagement rings I liked, he was also with her. She said she knew I thought it started while I was in the hospital, but it had been going on for almost a year before that. I felt something shift inside me when she said that. I had convinced myself that the accident was somehow the catalyst, that maybe the stress and the fear had pushed them together in some twisted way. But learning they had been betraying me for almost a year before I ever got hurt changed everything. I asked her why she kept being my friend all that time. Why she kept living with me and eating breakfast with me and watching movies with me and talking about our lives like nothing was wrong. Why she didn't just end the friendship if she was already stabbing me in the back every chance she got. She said she didn't know how to end it. She said she kept thinking she would break things off with Owen, but then she would see him and all her resolve would disappear. She said she kept thinking she would tell me the truth, but there was never a right moment, and she was terrified of losing me even though she knew she didn't deserve to keep me. She said she was a coward and she had always been a coward and she hated herself for it. I asked her if Owen was planning to leave me for her. If they had some endgame where they would eventually be together publicly, and I would just be the pathetic ex-girlfriend who never saw it coming. She said they talked about it multiple times. She said Owen kept saying he needed more time. Kept saying he was not ready to end things with me. Kept making excuses and pushing the timeline back. She said eventually she realized he was never going to choose either of us because he liked having both. He liked the stability and the girlfriend he could bring to family events and also the excitement of the secret affair. She said she was just as much a fool as I was because she actually believed he loved her. I asked her point blank if she loved him. She said she thought she did at the time, but now she was not sure she even knew what love meant. She said maybe she just loved the attention and the secrecy and the feeling of being chosen over someone else. She said there was something addictive about being the other woman, knowing someone wanted her badly enough to risk everything, and she got caught up in that feeling without thinking about who she was hurting. Then she said something that made me want to put my fist through the wall. She said part of her was actually relieved when I found out. She said she had been exhausted from pretending for so long. Exhausted from the guilt and the lies and having to keep track of what she had told me versus what was actually true. She said in some sick, twisted way, I had set her free by exposing them at the party because now she didn't have to pretend anymore. I stood up from the couch so fast that Noah jumped. I told Skylar to get her stuff and get out of my apartment and never speak to me again. I told her I did not care about her relief or her exhaustion or her complicated feelings about being a lying, manipulative piece of garbage. I told her she did not get to feel free after what she did to me. I told her she should feel trapped and suffocated by guilt for the rest of her miserable life. She backed away toward her room, still crying, and her mom came out looking alarmed, asking what happened. I told Cynthia to get her daughter out of my home before I said something I would really regret. And Cynthia just nodded and hurried back to help Skylar finish packing. They were loading the last boxes into Cynthia's car when Owen showed up. He just walked right into the apartment through the open door like he had any right to be there. And I felt every muscle in my body tense. Noah stood up immediately and positioned himself between me and Owen. But Owen held his hands up like he came in peace. He said he just wanted to talk. He said I had been ignoring him for weeks, and he deserved a chance to explain his side of things. He said he drove all the way across town because this was important, and the least I could do was give him 15 minutes. I told him to get out. I told him he was not welcome here, and he had nothing to say that I wanted to hear. He did not leave. He just kept standing there talking like my words meant nothing. He said what happened at the party was cruel and vindictive, and I had completely destroyed his life. He said his parents found out through social media, and now they were barely speaking to him. He said his coworkers looked at him differently, and he might have to find a new job because the environment had become so uncomfortable. I asked him if he was actually standing in my apartment complaining about consequences for his own actions. He said what he did was wrong. He was not denying that, but two wrongs do not make a right. He said I should have confronted him privately like an adult instead of planning some psychotic public humiliation. He said if I had just talked to him, we could have worked through it. We could have gone to couples therapy. We could have figured out what went wrong and fixed it together. I laughed in his face. I asked him what exactly there was to work through. The part where he called me ugly? The part where he said I was lucky he even looked at me? The part where he laughed about me needing more surgery while I was fighting for my life? He said those were just words, just stupid things people say when they are venting and not thinking clearly. He said, everyone says mean things they do not actually mean, and I was blowing it out of proportion by treating some casual comments like they were his genuine feelings. I told him to stop. I told him those were not casual comments. Those were his real thoughts coming out when he thought no one was watching. I told him I heard everything he said about my face and my desperation and my pathetic belief that he loved me. I told him he showed me exactly who he was and I believed him. He got angry then because Owen always got angry when he was not getting his way. He said I was being dramatic like always. He said this was exactly why he started seeing Skylar in the first place, because I was exhausting and needy and impossible to please, and Skylar was fun and easy and did not make everything into a federal case. Noah took a step forward and told Owen he had about 10 seconds to get out before things got physical. Owen ignored him and kept his eyes on me. He said I was going to regret this someday. He said I was going to wake up alone and realize I threw away the best relationship I ever had over wounded pride. He said no one else was going to want me. No one else was going to put up with my intensity and my trust issues and whatever psychological damage this whole thing had done to me. He said I would end up exactly like Skylar predicted in that video. Pathetic and desperate and dying alone. I walked right up to him until I was close enough to see the pores on his nose. And I told him Skylar was right about one thing. I was desperate. Desperate enough to convince myself someone like him was capable of love. Desperate enough to ignore every red flag because I wanted so badly to believe I had found my person. Desperate enough to waste almost 2 years on a man who thought being with me was doing me a favor. I told him I would rather spend the rest of my life alone than spend one more second with someone who thinks loving me is charity. He opened his mouth to respond, but Noah grabbed his shoulder and physically turned him toward the door. Skylar had been standing in the hallway, watching the whole confrontation through the open door. She had this expression on her face like she was seeing Owen clearly for the first time, like maybe she finally understood that he never loved either of us, that we were both just convenient options for someone who could not be alone. She finished loading her last box without saying a word. Before she got into her mom's car, she turned around and looked at me one more time and said she was sorry. She knew it did not mean anything, but she needed to say it one last time. I told her, goodbye. Not, I forgive you. Not, I hope you figure your life out. Just goodbye. And she got in the car and Cynthia drove away. And 7 years ended in a parking lot on a random Saturday in November. I went back inside and sat on the couch and cried while Noah sat next to me not saying anything because sometimes the best thing someone can do is just exist beside you while you fall apart. That was yesterday. I am getting my tattoo covered next month. Found an artist who does beautiful botanical work. The little star is becoming a wildflower. Something that grows even in harsh conditions. Felt right. I survived a car accident that should have killed me. I survived months of learning to walk again. I survived discovering that my entire life was built on lies. I can survive being alone. I can survive rebuilding. I can survive becoming someone who never lets herself be fooled again. Thank you to everyone who followed this story. You are better friends to me than either of them ever were. I am going to be okay. What about you? Have you ever had to expose someone you trusted, knowing it would shatter everything? Tell me what you think. I really want to know.